there was a time leading up to 9/11 where the broken toys would kind of get put on those squads. Would get put on the counterintelligence squad.
What do you mean broken toys?
So agents that had issues, right? Agents that, hey, there's something going on at the house and we're not sure and he's not focused. Or, oh my God, that guy fucked up. He did something stupid, wasn't criminal, doesn't deserve to be fired, but send him over to FCI, foreign counterintelligence. You know what I mean? It's a place for him to rest, to get his head back. Think about that. Right? So you can't tell me that there were clues and messages that came in from chatter and from even not in a cooperative or collaborative relationship with the agency. There was stuff that came in that might have got lost in the mix. Might have got lost and might have caused some of the things that happened, i.e. 9/11. And near and dear to my heart because I lost, my current wife lost her husband in the towers, right? So it hits home for me when I think back about how hard many of us were working throughout the different areas of the Bureau and how it was always kind of a joke. Well, hey, he got put on, counterterrorism or he got put on counterintelligence. Well, yeah, he's struggling at home. He needs to be home for the kid by 3 o'clock. Not saying everybody, but in my experience, that happened. So I often kind of wonder, we had to rebuild that program from the ground up. When 9/11 happened, we took all our best people and put them on those squads.
Wow. I had a guy in here who was a firefighter in the NYPD on the day of 9/11, and he was there was a hotel right next to one of the towers. I forget the name of the hotel. I think it was
Marriott, right?
Marriott.
Yep.
So he was underneath the Marriott in the parking lot when the tower collapsed on top of it.
Oh my God.
And he was walking me through everything from the sounds to everyone around him. He held on to a what are those big fucking big round concrete pilings called?
The piling. Yeah.
He was holding onto a piling as
Yep.
the thing collapsed.
Yep.
And he said it sounded just like he explained it. He said it sounded like I was on the tarmac at JFK with 2 747s on each side of me with their backs facing my ears, going full blast.
I believe it.
And I brought up to him that there's a lot of shit that's screwy about 9/11. Like, I don't think we're being told the whole truth about it. He didn't want to have any part of that conversation. He's like, a lot of people say that. He's like, anyone that says that, he's like, he can't even participate in that conversation.
Yep.
Obviously, he has a lot of PTSD from that
without
day.
a doubt. Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, I know it's a sensitive subject to people that were close to people on that day or were there that day. But I get the sense that we're not being told everything about that day.
I mean, I'm sure there's things that haven't been shared for whatever reason. I mean, look back at the whole 60-page document
about the Saudis,
about the flight schools,
right,
and then look at what's going on now, where the families, the 9/11 families, have been attempting to receive documentation, unredacted documents from the Bureau with regards to the 19 terrorists' attachment to Saudi, in order to finish a lawsuit, to finish what I think is a reasonable and winnable lawsuit. So the Bureau has kind of dragged their feet on that and finally were ordered to turn over, and still hasn't turned over everything that they have. Now, I can tell you from my experience, I have no doubt what happened because I was there.
Right.
Just like this fireman, I suffered PTS from life before, from my military time, right? And then it came, 2001 didn't help. And then it came raging back in 2010. I lost my mom and my best friend to a suicide bomber in Afghanistan.
What?
And my mom of Alzheimer's in the same month. So that kind of brought it raging back. But I can tell you for a fact, I witnessed number 2 hit the tower. So I came right over my head, basically, on a boat. I was on a boat in the middle of New York Harbor. So, was on the ground when the buildings fell. So I heard those rumbles. I heard those sounds. I experienced those smells. I experienced the choking, covered with soot on I still have the vest that I kind of keep in the corner of my office to remind me of what can happen, if we're not careful. Obviously, I have a reminder every day just looking at Sheila and her kids and her 2 older boys. So You know, I know that, you know, I know people talk about it and wonder about whether or not it was an inside job, quote unquote. Man, if that's an inside job, that's the greatest military operation in the history of the world.
Right.
You know, it makes Pearl Harbor look weak.
I was just going to bring it up. There's a documentary called 9/11, The New Pearl Harbor, that goes really, really deep into it. And again, there's fucking people who just have this idea in their mind that this was an inside job, and I'm going to find every peg that fits into the right hole to say this was an inside job.
Yeah.
But I watched this documentary, and there's lots of fucking crazy things in there. Like, they interviewed the flight instructors from those flight schools, and they said the motherfucker that was flying the plane that flew into the Pentagon, that guy could not even pass basic flight training. He said that there's no way, like, this guy couldn't fly a Cessna to save his life. There's no way he could fly this fucking jetliner at, I think it was 60 feet above the ground, at their speed it was flying when it hit the Pentagon. There's no fucking way. It would take an extremely skilled pilot with years of experience to do that. This is just one example.
Well, he bounced it in.
Did he?
Yeah, he bounced it in.
So that's another thing. Like, there's one video clip of
there's that surveillance cam from a gate.
A parking gate, right. When
that was it.
That's supposed to be like the most surveilled building in America, like the Pentagon. There's supposed to be like 90 to 100 cameras on that building, and the FBI, I think, is holding on to a ton of the tapes, and they won't release them.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. You could see the path clearly because the Air Force Memorial is now there. It's the it's the kind of the jet symbolism of the jet. That's the path came in. Interesting story about that. It's the only area of the Pentagon that was reinforced with concrete back during World War II time.
The area where the plane hit. That's another part of the documentary they just did. They said that they had just finished, I don't know how recently, but they had just finished redoing that part of it.
Yeah.
And that not only that, but they lined the walls, the interior walls, with like fireproof Kevlar or something insane. Interesting.
I mean, the original reason that they stopped reinforcing back during World War II is because they wanted to, they had to convert the economy into the war effort, right? So the concrete became valuable,
right?
So they just stopped, right? And then, you know, I don't know when it was done again or when it picked up. I don't even know what it was, but after the fact, they did it, obviously, to rebuild. I mean, there was a ton of people that, you know, that died there. There's a ton of people that have stories about it, you know, that were all military. So that's another thing. They're not going to expose their story. They're military. They're not allowed to, you know, and the military's weird with that.
Yeah. Did you see the thing recently with Trump at the Live, the Live golf?
Yeah, at his club right up in Basking Ridge at the Trump National. Yeah,
yeah, and there was tons of protesters for the Saudi, because the Saudi 9/11. I think there were 9/11 victims.
There's a lot of families. Yeah, my wife's friends, some of her friends.
And they interviewed Trump, and he goes, "We haven't gotten to the bottom of 9/11."